it was also, I think that became a challenge for me because all of a sudden everyone was interested, and everyone who don't seem to know how much this means to a lot of people all of a sudden feel like, hey, this is the latest toast of the town. Any negative story, there was this bubble, and
Mm.
I was there, and I was trying to protect that bubble too.
Welcome to Across the Line. It's Football Friday, and on this episode, we're pleased to bring back Cedelf Tupas on the show. Good friend of the podcast, as well as a familiar face to many in the Philippine football community. We talk about so much in this one, all the way from his origins as a young man in Bacolod, as an aspiring writer, all the way to his long and tenured career at the Philippine Daily Inquirer, and now his new role as the PFF's head of broadcast services. It's a fantastic chat, and I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please do subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Take some time to rate and review the show. It really makes a big difference, and we would really appreciate it. Also, find us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. Across the Line on all three platforms. We're easy to find. We'd appreciate if you drop us a line. That is all. Cedelf Tupas on this Football Friday. Please do enjoy. If you've been following Philippine football over the last decade, you will be extremely familiar with our guest today. Cedelf Tupas is back on Across the Line, former host of the show, this time as a first time guest. How does it feel, Cedelf?
Man, it feels weird being here, but on the other side of the fence. We're used to we're used to be the ones asking questions, but now take it easy on me because I'm not used to this.
Man, it's so nice to have you here. When we look at your credentials as a Philippine football personality, you're um, probably the most prominent writer over the last decade. Or obviously, that has changed over the last few months. You have, you're a sports anchor and analyst on TV, uh, podcast host for Crossover. And now the head of broadcasting services. Is that correct for the uh, Philippine Football Federation?
Yeah. I retired from my journalism job a few months ago, and I think I may have found my second love here. My next my next challenge. I really like what I'm doing now for Philippine football, especially the Philippines Football League and the PFF. It feels different because when I was in the other side, asking the questions, making the articles. You tend to want to be a friend, but sometimes you want to be critical as well. But over here, you're all in. You're all in. You have to to protect the interests of the sport at all costs now.
Yeah, definitely. It's a different look for you. But what other differences have you felt over the last few months now that you've switched sides, so to speak?
Well, um, I think the relationships that I've built over the last few years have really helped me transition into this new job that I have in the PFF and the PFL. I've been working closely with the federation for the last for the last decade, just in and out, doing some stuff on for them, and then uh, when the opportunity came that there was some sort of vacancy for that broadcast and production job in the PFF. I thought it was a great exit plan with from my sports writing career because it's also this decision was also a bit pandemic driven because it was hard for the last I think since March that you we haven't been covering a lot of sports. You have to come up with with stories every night. I mean, full credit to my former colleagues, to my colleagues, to my media friends that they've still managed to churn out stories every day, even though there's a halt in sports activities, except of course with the professional sports. But yeah, it was tough. tough, really tough. That's why I came up with the podcast. Actually, that was pandemic driven, and because I needed to talk to people to come up with content for the Inquirer. So this new job, I'm really glad, especially with with the PFL holding that bubble. That was a great opportunity for me to really make my introduction to the group, and I'm I am happy. We're working with a lot of people in the federation, especially Commissioner Coco, Media Officer Ico de Guzman, Andy Laurel, Maja, Anyo, all those people that I've been friends with for the longest time, and now working with them. Of course, our good friend Louis Bart is also their graphic artist. So, and of course, you guys are in part of the commentary team. So I was I think it was all about just putting everyone together and working for just one goal. And I'm glad that I'm here. I'm really happy with where I am right now.
How would you assess your first year or your first season in charge of the broadcast of the league?
Well, I don't think I think it leaves a lot to be desired. You know, I'm you know me, Jing. We've worked together for oh my goodness, I can remember. you
We'll
know,
get into that.
we'll get into that later. But we've known each other for the longest time, and we've had we've worked in several productions where the standards are very high, and of course you want to take that to what we have now in the PFL, and I'm quite satisfied, but I know there's a lot of room for improvement. um I think the bubble, because it's such a short tournament, like 5 game days, it wasn't really enough to measure the potential of what the production team can do, because I thought that with more time, with more matches, we could still get better. So that's why we're really looking forward to this season, to for the following season, because I think you'll see more, you'll see better coverage, and we have more equipment coming in. I think we've thanks to UEFA, the PFF has managed to secure a grant for new equipment. I think we have 6 or 7 cameras coming in, 4K cameras, so
Wow.
it's clearer. But I'm really happy because some of a lot of our football fans have appreciated the work of the production team. It was a very lean team, and you know that because the IATF did not allow a lot of people in Carmona, so
Mhm.
we could not, the Gab especially, they were there, and they're watching us, they're observing us, and they would flag us if we had a lot of people there. So that is for a small team. Credit to Direct Glenn as well. It was a great coverage. I'm quite happy with the way with how it turned out.
I'm sure a lot of the people who tuned in would agree with you that, yeah, I mean, the resounding reaction that I felt was that everybody was happy that football was being delivered in a manner that was extremely palatable for the public to consume. And good news for everyone is that it seems you're not happy with it yet. I mean, you're still looking to improve, and that means only good things for 2021. But what a way for you to get introduced into a new role, right? I mean, pandemic, the whole bubble situation, so many pieces that you needed to juggle in order for the broadcast to even transpire. And you did it in a manner where it felt to me, anyway, given all the constraints, that you knocked it out of the park, man.
Yeah, but you know what, Jing? It's also we're just the thing with this season is that in the PFL and the PFF, it's not a lot. There's not a lot of people working there. You know that it's a very
Mhm.
lean team as well, and we do multiple functions. So
Yeah.
if you remember, we got postponed the first match day
Yep.
because of those COVID cases. So we also had to. We were actually quite ready for that, for the coverage. We're preparing for that coverage already, and then all of a sudden this curveball comes to us with the COVID cases. So I also help out the federation with their communications approach. So there's a lot going on with with media and PR and stuff. So I also help out the federation on that aspect. But this season we also got a lot of help from Anton's group, Anton de Rosario's group, for with regards to pushing the league on social media and on different platforms. So I'm really glad that it was a total team effort, and the coverage is just one aspect of it. You cannot claim credit for everything. I know it's a very important aspect of presenting the league, but there's a whole lot of moving parts, and I'm sure Coco Torre knows that, and he had to put it all together. I am just one member of the team that worked there in the PFL bubble.
Gracious as always there, Cedelf. But congratulations on a fantastic start to your new career. And did you ever think when you started in our days in the basement there in active, starting with our off tubes, that this is where you were gonna go, broadcast services for the federation?
It's it was quite it's an evolution for me. I started out writing. You may want to ask that later on about my background, but I
Mm.
really loved writing, and I love football, and I love sports writing, I love sports. And then that that broadcast stint in active before was also an accident. And I was helping them write scripts for the UFL coverage, because that time I don't think a lot of people, especially from their end, knew about the UFL and the players. So um, since I was writing about it, they suggested that, hey, why don't you try broadcasting, because that may be the next move for you. But up until I only see this as a sideline. Writing was always my main job, and but over the years I was able to hone a bit of my craft. I was observing a lot of what's happening behind the scenes. I have to give credit to a lot of the friends that we have in TV5, Mam Russ Villar before, and Direct Dong. They were all very instrumental in me seeing the other side of the fence. And then that experience also of working on TV, being in front of the camera, just helped me develop the skills, and maybe help me uh, a bit, giving in giving feedback to my fellow commentators, and that's why I tell you the standards are very high, because I see the standards are always, I look at the broadcast quality of the best coverage teams in the Philippines. So that is why that was always the goal, to be there. And it's been quite a journey. And I just followed my heart, actually, when when it became available, and that was the next move.
I always felt like, man, where does Sedov get all of his energy? Like he's gonna go to a coverage, then he's gonna go to a game, he's gonna cover a match. It could be football, and also you transition to basketball as well into the MPBL, and that's not easy. You have to go to the provinces for some of the matches, some of the games, right? And sometimes it's 2 games, 3 games in a row, something crazy like that. And you're gonna come back, and then the next day you've got something else. It's like, geez, when does this guy sleep? You know what I mean? Um, where do you get all that energy?
I
How do you
don't
hustle
know,
so
man.
hard, huh?
I don't know, man. This is when you love the grind and you love the job. You sort of put the fatigue on the back burner. But yeah, I had a really good 3-4 year run, with what I was doing, because and sometimes when I look back, I feel that I even took it for granted for a bit, because I was hustling so hard. And when the pandemic happened, you look back, oh my god, I should have had more fun that time because there were times, bro, when I was covering a game in I just came from the Asian Cup in Dubai. I get here, and then one day later I'm in a coverage in San Andres in Manila for the MPBL, and then the game ends at 11:30, 12, and I have to be at the airport at 4 a.m. because I have another coverage overseas for the ABL. I have a 3 p.m. game in Bangkok. So and then I fly back. I take that 4 a.m. flight. I cover the game at 3 p.m. and then it finishes at 5 6, and then I go back to the airport and fly back at 9 p.m. back to Manila. So it was a grind, really. There were so many instances where I had to drag my feet, really. There was this Asian Cup draw, and then I go back. I go to Thailand, and then I go to Bacolod for like 4 hours, and then I cover the ABL game, the deciding game. So it is a lot of. I tell you, I'm just very fortunate. I'm just very fortunate that I get the best seats in the house. I get to work in this industry. Not a lot of people are given this opportunity. That's why you try to stay grounded, and also you try to do your best every time, put your best foot forward.
That's good to know, man. So it's the passion driving you. I thought it was because there's new shoes that are dropping next month.
Yeah,
Or
yeah. That's the other thing as well. And then probably now it's golf. It's golf gear or
that's
golf
right.
equipment.
I've been seeing
Yeah.
you on the golf course a lot lately. How's that been? How's been the new hobby?
It's pandemic driven. There's no basketball, so you go to another. You go find a way where you can release your competitive drive, competitive spirit. So you go to the golf course and then challenge the course and lose all the time.
I guess that's how everybody starts, huh?
Yeah,
In golf.
yeah, yeah. You have to invest on something. I see this as because my background, it's in sports writing. I also invested a lot in gaining experience. So I treat it all of my challenges. I treat it that way.
Now, for most of the people who will tune into this, they know Cedelf Tupas as the guy who put football on the front page of the Inquirer, right? They know Cedelf as the guy who brings all the. If Cedelf Tupas reports it, then it's for real, right? That's how people have known you for the longest time. So tell me a little bit about the start to writing. I know you started in Bacolod. So from there to the Inquirer, what was that journey like for you?
It was a long journey, actually, but I started out as a campus journalist, like like some of the writers I know. I started in the school paper as early as high school, but I didn't know that I was going to pursue it as a career. I took up mass communications at the University of Saint Lasal in Bacolod, and then by junior year I took up my first units in journalism, because my mom was a former journalist there. So I was a bit embedded to her. When she covers, I always go with her. So
Mm.
sometimes I would usually so that's why the personalities, eventually when I moved up and worked, some of the people I interviewed already knew me as the son of my mom.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
So they knew me from because of her. So I was tagging along when I was very young. So even my joint professor, Mr. Alan Del Carmen, was when I would not do well in class, he would report me to my mom. And that's the downside of it, because he knew my mom as well. So that's where it started. I'm not sure if you remember the university games, Jing, uni games.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the semestral break competition for collegiate athletes, and LaSalle Bacolod usually hosts it. So I was part of that Uni Games newsletter. So I gathered the results. Coach Hans Smith, that time I was able to interview him, and he still remembers that, when I was a really skinny college kid approaching him after his team just won 20-0 against
Wow.
his women's team was really very pretty good that time, and especially even now, and yeah, that's where it started. I was collecting results, and then that time my professor did not want me to write anything. He just wants the results, and I'm like itching to write, and he's like, no, no, I just need the results from you, and I think that spurred me on, like, why does he doesn't want me to write, I'm capable of this. And then a few months later, there was this competition in Western Visayas. It's organized by the PIA, the Philippine Information Agency, and they usually gather the collegiate campus journalists to a competition, a sports writing competition, news writing, everything, all categories. And then I won that contest in Iloilo, and then the local paper, the Visayan Daily Star, where some of my mom's friends also work, and my former editor, Eric Lurti. So he became a PSC commissioner. He asked me if he wanted me to join him as a, like, some sort of a stringer. You just contribute whenever you can. And then I saw it as really as a chance to get acquainted with the grind of journalism. So I'm so lucky because I was studying in LaSalle, and I was a working student that time, by the way. So I was juggling all of this stuff. I was working in the audiovisual resource center. So I had 5-hour work days, and then
Doing what?
classes. Fixing overhead projectors, LCDs, the old school ones, the overhead
Yeah.
projectors, the
Yeah, of
OHP.
course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Acetate, acetate.
acetate. Yeah, that's what our roles were. And when there's a film showing, you are the one who is going to, who will be inserting the VHS tape to the or the VCD to the class. So usually that's the role, and we also make the IDs in the school. So
Ah.
we had a whole lot of responsibilities there. So I had 5-hour work days there from my sophomore year until my senior year. I quit probably in my last semester because I was already busy with journalism, with writing and stuff. So I was very fortunate in LaSalle to be under very good professors. One of them passed away late last year. Direct Peque Galiaga, man, unbelievable. Up until now, I really appreciate what he's said. He meets us at I think just twice a month. But then all of the every time he opens his mouth, everyone was like watching him and listening and learning from him. And I think he comes up with some great insights on hard work. Really, I think that is one on the work ethic. I think that is
Mm.
something that a lot of my classmates and learned from him. He has this famous quote. You think you're working too hard, it's nothing. He's always like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I was once a victim of that. I bring along the school paper that I just printed out for the
Yeah.
class. This is the department mass comm department paper. I did not go home that night. I spent the night in the printing press. So it was his class the first thing the next day, and I brought it there. Like, I haven't changed, same clothes from yesterday. And then I came in late, and then so you come up with an excuse, right?
Mm.
Direct, I'm so sorry, I was in the printing press. Like, and then so he said to me, like, you think you're working too hard? That's nothing. in the real world, that's nothing. So that's where and then I moved on from the Visayan Daily Star. I got the break in the Sea Games, actually, the Southeast Asian Games
Mm.
2005. The Inquirer needed a correspondent for Bacolod because a lot of the reporters were here in Manila. So they asked my editor in the paper if there was anyone they could recommend. She could recommend, and she recommended me. Um, and then I covered football. It's a good thing that my former boss that time, he passed away actually last Christmas. Bless his soul, Sir Ted. Um, it's a good thing that he came from Hong Kong, Jing,
Mm.
and he when the English Premier League, he came from Hong Kong, a Hong Kong newspaper. He worked there for like almost a decade, so he knew about football because that was what they're putting out in the paper. So when
Mm.
he saw that, oh, he knows how to write football, so that's when he like, okay, maybe we can, let's try him, out, so I finished that Sea Games coverage. I was able, they were actually very happy with my coverage. And then that was when I was invited to the Inquirer. That was 2006, but I did not
Wow.
go then. I did not go. I had to. I moved only in 2008. It was a good thing that the offer was still there, but actually discovered because of my football writing by my former boss. So I was so fortunate that Bacolod hosted the Sea Games with all those the guys like Ali, Chiefy, Phil and James actually were
That's
there.
right. That's right. That was their
They're
first one, right?
Yeah, that was her first one. I actually went to the interview of Phil and James, their very first interview. Seven, Phil was 17, I think, and James was 18. And we football fans, we football guys, we love wearing football jerseys, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna wear my best jersey for this interview, and I wore my England jersey. I wore my England jersey and I go to the interview and I see Phil and James. They're wearing the Philippines jersey. Oh, I don't think I'm not sure if I still have that photo, but yeah, that was my earliest recollection. So yeah, and then I moved to Manila. So because of the Inquirer, because of the offer to move to Manila.
Wow. So that was 2008 already when you moved,
Yeah,
12 years ago.
2000, 12 years ago, and we met 2009 or 10, right? 2010, I
2000,
think.
I think 2010. I think it was for the
Yeah,
All Star game.
yeah,
It was like an All
2010.
Star game, and no media was really showing up to any of our games.
Yeah.
Not much anyway. And then Coco said that, oh, there's this guy from the Inquirer coming. Huh? Make sure you take care of him. Blah blah blah. It's like, oh, Cedelf. It was my first time meeting you, and of course we were super psyched. I was welcoming somebody from the Inquirer to cover the game. It's like, all right, this is legit.
This is
Okay,
just me.
yeah. Well, at the time, I thought this is the guy, right? This
No,
is Cedelf.
no, not really.
So eventually, we would become friends. But at that time, I remember being on my toes because, like, yeah, the Inquirer was coming to cover the league, which was unheard of at the time. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you two things. One, why writing? Like, is it because of the influence of your mom specifically, or what is it about writing in particular that you enjoy the most?
Well, I love telling stories, Jing. Um, I love, I love the narratives. If you see sometimes if you see my social media, I like reading good stuff.
Hmm.
So um, I think you know I, I've matured with writing, and I see a lot of differences from the ones I wrote before and the ones I write now. But writing gives it's the ultimate for me. It's the ultimate way to express myself, and I just love telling stories because and of course sports with sports it's relatable. It mirrors life. Uh, it is a lot of it describes a lot of the aspects of life, being losing, winning, and just the journey itself. So I love telling people stories, especially our athletes. It's a different, each country has a different sports landscape. So right here, I fell in love with football even more because it's not so mainstream, actually.
Right.
And that's where it led me. That's why it led me to football. And not only that, because um number one, I really love sports in when I was very young. But when I started seeing that football was really marginalized, and nobody was really writing about it except for a few, you know uh guys like Rick Olivares, or for the longest time. And then eventually, when I had that opportunity, I grabbed it. There are a lot of not a lot of people knew that, I used to spend my money for just to cover games. So that
Really?
just want to tell a story. I think it was AFF championship in Bangkok, 2007. I used up my savings to travel to Bangkok. I was still in Bacolod, living in Bacolod. I was traveled to Bangkok and watched and covered the game for the Inquirer. I didn't get anything from my office, from the Inquirer. Maybe they just paid for my articles, but it was all me. And I'm like, yeah, I think when I saw that journey, it's like, oh man, I want to be. This is what I want to do. Really, when I see the team didn't win anything there. They just came up with 1 point against Myanmar, the draw. But I think that really fueled me. Telling a story that's not so, not to bring to the consciousness of the Filipino people. So, and football was really the way for me to I think make a niche, or a role for me to find my
Hmm.
niche.
That's incredible. You spent your own money to cover the games in Bangkok.
Yeah.
Who you all alone? You traveled by yourself? Do you have
Yeah,
friends there in
there was
Thailand or?
because the thing there was that in 2006 the qualifiers for that AFF championship was in Bacolod. So the guys were there: Phil, James, Anton, Ali, Alvin Ocampo was there, Chiefy was there, Arnie Pasinabo was there. So I established good connections with these people. Coach Aris Kaslib,
Mhm.
during the Sea Games. So they were 2005 December, they were there in Bacolod. November 2006 they were back,
Right.
and they were really luring plenty of people. Chris was there in that 2006 tournament. And then um we I was the sports editor of the local newspaper that time, and I would devote two pages for my football stories. It's like this this big photo article was just, it's okay, but big photo. So like I just, you know put it in people's faces that, hey, this is football. I want this to be, this is the most prominent sport for me. So so since people were following the team, I said, why don't I just go to Bangkok and then cover them? Because I think when I pass my articles here in Bacolod, I think people will still read it because they knew these people. They knew the
Mhm.
players, right? So they were aware of the team. And then so I used up my savings and then bought a ticket. You know the ticket, Jing, where it's not yet an e-ticket and you have to
Right.
write it down. It's like a carbon paper. You remember
Oh,
that?
I
The
I
old
don't
ticket,
remember this.
the old ticket where you had to write down, and then it's not the e-ticket where you just print it out.
Right.
You have
Right.
this like whole booklet where they tear up the sheet where you already used the ticket. It's like a bus ticket before, like just longer. So I bought I think I bought my ticket for like 8,000 pesos from Manila. Of course, I had to pay for Bacolod, Manila, but Manila Bangkok round trip was 8,000. So and then I was taking up my masters in journalism in Ateneo that time, and I had a Thai classmate. I told my Thai classmate, "Hey, can you host me there?" And he said, "I'm sorry, I cannot." So he just said he recommended a hostel for me. I stayed in a hostel for like 8 7 8 days. So it was good. It was a good experience. I got really close with some of the guys. Casas was what was became a really good friend because of that. Alvin Ocampo became a really good friend because of that competition, because we were all talking to each other that time. So yeah, that was my first foray with international competitions. That was my first international trip with the Azkals, and I paid for it.
That's incredible, man. Talk about taking a risk, right? I mean, like you're
Yeah,
spending your savings to do a coverage on a sport that not a lot of people were paying attention to. Shit,
yeah,
that's incredible.
yeah. And the sad thing there was Ali was injured in the first game,
Oh,
Ali Borromeo, and it was tough to see him like 8 9 minutes into it, and
oh wow.
he sustains an ACL injury. Oh, but the probably one of the most unheralded games in history was happened also there. The draw against Myanmar. Oh my goodness, what was Michael Casas played the game of his life there. Played the game of his life, and it was Chris Greatwich could have scored the winning goal, but Ariel Cerudo's shot from a very tight angle with Chris in the down the middle and waiting for the ball, and he hits the side netting. It was around probably 88th minute, and then man, it was the when I uh, went up to the bus the game day on the game. Man, they were all inconsolable.
Really?
I mean, they were so close of upsetting Myanmar already that time. I've seen, it's a scene that I would repeat so many times during my coverage. People, grown men crying.
Yeah. Man, so how old were you at this time?
Well, probably around 21, 22, 22,
Incredible.
23.
Incredible. And at that time, did you feel as if something was brewing already? Obviously, 2 years later would be the miracle in Hanoi. So, did you know at that time? Did you feel as if something was happening?
Honestly, no. Honestly, no, Jing. I was quite contented with what the team was showing. But the only time that I felt that something was brewing was when I covered this AFC Challenge Cup in Iloilo, 2008. Um, we drew against Tajikistan, beat Brunei, and beat Bhutan in Barota, which was to me still one of the most memorable coverages of my life. Covering an international game in Barotac, Nuevo, the football hotbed. Um, that time Neil Etheridge was already there. It was his first tournament, and then Chris Greatwich was there. Even Phil Greatwich was there. Phil and James just came. Also came. Phil was, I think he was still with Chelsea that time. That's where I felt like, man, if they can keep this team like 2 2 3 years later on, I think they'll come up. It'll be something special. And then yeah, lo and behold, it happened. But before that happened, it was a really difficult time for Philippine football, because that time the late Mario Martinez was the one running the federation, and um, Phil and James quit the national team. I think partly because of his leadership that time.
Mm.
So um, right after that, I said, if they're not gonna have this continuity with this program, I don't think they're gonna succeed. And then 2010 happened. When Dan Palami came in, I think there were some changes with, the first thing Dan Palami told me before, when he took over, when I got to interview him, he's like, don't worry, we're gonna be, we're gonna isolate the team from the problems in the federation. So I'm gonna
Mm.
be here just on the side and taking care of them. That's why he was able to convince Phil and James to come back,
Right.
because that was key actually when the brothers came back, when he was able to convince them to come back to the team. And so when the Suzuki Cup happened, we still had that Laos qualifier, but you felt something was already brewing, because this team was already, I think, 3 4 years 5 years in the making, and they were already, they already knew each other. They, the chemistry, the camaraderie was already there. You can already feel it. And they have a young, and ambitious coach in Simon McManamy. So, uh, if it all came together in Vietnam.
Right. So that happens and football explodes. And all of a sudden, it's turned from, it's night and day all of a sudden, right? From being the dark days where nobody wants to cover football, now everybody wants a piece. What was that like for you as a writer? Not only as, exciting times, obviously, there's going to be a lot more to cover, there's going to be a lot more interesting events and things to keep on top of. But now there's an influx of people that are coming in
Yeah.
who are wanting to write about the sport. But you stayed on top. You know what I mean? Like you stayed as a prominent figure in the community and making sure that you're on top of things. How did you make sure that that was the case?
Well, I think one of the skills I developed over the years was really, um, the relationships that I built with all these players, up until now, with people running the show. I think, with the reason why I was able to stay, um, you know, not get, outscooped or left behind by news. That time, Jing, everything was news. Every move of the Azkals was news.
Mm.
Uh, I remember going to Star City so they can just acclimatize with the cold weather in Mongolia, because Star City had this ice.
Oh wow, I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
and they had to, and it was in the evening news. It was in the evening news, man. I'm like, so I'm here, and I had to write that story that they are in a theme park, just acclimatized. So like every move, Jing, every move, I had to follow it up. And it was also, I think that became a challenge for me, because all of a sudden everyone was interested, and everyone who don't seem to know how much this means to a lot of people, all of a sudden feel like, hey, this is the latest toast of the town. Any negative story, there was this bubble, and
Mm.
I was there, and I was trying to protect that bubble too, and if I had issues with people, on running the show, I would just straight up tell them, right? Like, there's a problem here, boss. There's a problem here. There's a problem here. So I think that helped me being honest to them, and being honest to the people, to sources, actually helped me, get the information that I needed to continue, being a prominent, source of news that time. And it all boils down to just really relationships along the way.
Mm.
That's why, I try not to burn a lot of bridges, but at the same time, you have to explain to them that you also have a job. That's the balance there.
Right. You obviously told that line very nicely. Made a fantastic career of it, and 12 years later, you've found yourself to your retirement. Was it emotional when you made the decision? Afterwards, how long did it take before it sunk in that wow, I'm no longer a writer. I'm not the writer that I have been for the past 2 decades.
Yeah, the thing with writers, Jing, it's an understated, they say journalists have big egos. This is not a high paying job. It's not a high paying job. So you compensate for with compliments, getting compliments from people. So that's where you know okay, dyan tayo babawi, you get praised for an article. So yeah, it's okay, sulit na. But, um honestly, I really I cried over it. It was the only thing that I did for like, only almost it was a primary. The company, the Inquirer, was so close to my heart. I love the Inquirer. Up until now, I'm a huge supporter of the news organization, and but I think I got into this side, a little bit too much as well. I mean, what I meant without that is that I became too close to the community, to the people who run football in this country. So that's
Mm.
why I had to be fair as well to people, to the people, to readers, you know, um, le- lest I appear to be, not objective and biased. You know, I had to also, it was the most logical thing for me to do. Like, if I retire, I want to work in football. I've always said that, and I also told my boss in Inquirer that, I have big dreams for Philippine football. I want to make a difference, so that's why I moved to the other side. So at first there was some resistance. He didn't want to let me go. Can you stay for a few more years, maybe? But when I told him about my mission, my goal, and my motivation, he said, "Yeah, if I wanna." My boss Francis Ochoa told me, like, "Yeah, if we wanna let you go, we will let you go on that, for a bigger purpose. That's help football in this country." And I think, there are a lot of football writers now. Yeah, there's an emergence of younger crop of football writers, and I think I'm done with that era, and I'm here on the other side, to help them out, whatever they need, whatever information they need. They can always reach out to me. I'm not selfish with information now. Before I could be, because it's a scoop for me, but now I am the one sharing the information to them. I, I'm
Now,
I'm willingly giving them the spotlight. Really.
are you confident about the next generation of people who are going to be covering the sport?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of new knowledgeable people writing about the sport. I've seen them. Ian of Tribune, Jamer also writes. Lorenzo, I
Mm.
think Lorenzo did some
Mhm.
great stories during the PFL season. So I'm quite confident, and there are still a lot of my friends who are still covering the game. The Tirado brothers, Ruben and Jonas, they're still there. Olmin Leba is still there. So, um, and every time the Inquirer needs a story, they just they just send me a message. Yeah, it's okay if there's no byline. Just as long as football comes out, I'm okay with that. So if you see some Inquirer football stories in Inquirer, you know what's happening behind.
It doesn't say by Cedelf Tupas, but we all know. We all know it's Cedelf
I'm just
Tupas.
sharing information, of course. I'm all for promoting the game. Jing. I'm all for promoting the game.
So tell me a little bit about this bigger purpose that you foresee in your shift in this new role. Like, what's the ultimate picture? What do you want to accomplish um, in the next few years?
Uh, well, I really want to be there when the PFL returns to live TV. I want to be there when the league becomes stable, and I'll do everything in my power to achieve those goals. I think we have a young and dynamic team to carry that, to help in achieving that goal, with Coco's leadership, of course, Sir Nonong and Attorney Ed up there in the PFF. I think I can, and we together can make a lot of, can grow this game, and grow the league, and to a stable product, really, because you know, I'm not it they say it's community building, it's grassroots. I think all has to go together. You know, the league also has to be really attractive and entertaining for everyone to also again bring up that community and bring up the more kids playing football. So it has to be a holistic approach, and I'm here. I will be here doing my role on this other side. So other people in the federation and of course the RFAs can do their job. I'll just be here, and I'll do my darndest best to achieve our goals.
So if you close your eyes and you picture the ideal scenario for Philippine football, let's say this is it. You found the perfect situation. What does it look like in your mind?
Um, Rizal Memorial, the 15 to 10,000 watching a 10 to 15,000 watching a, let's just say, a cup final,
Mm.
and A boards full, uh the works within the stadium, you know, there's a pregame show on the side, and there are two commentators on in the middle, and then like 10, 12 cameras for for better coverage. You know, there's a camera, there's a drone up on the pitch, and then and there's a we can even do the halftime show there. It has to be the studio, man, where they can have the telestrator and all
Yeah.
the tactics, discuss all the tactics with all the pundits, you know, and then um, league monitored by all over Southeast Asia and Asia, people buzzing about it. And of
Mm.
course, Azkals maybe more people, 30 filling up Rizal as well. You know, it's because it's not just going to be the PFL that I'll be handling broadcast services. It's also going to be Azkals games as well. So
Mm.
so that is going to be that will be part of my role as well. And it will also be all the age group tournaments when the time comes, when everything is allowed. So you can expect all of these competitions to be covered, especially the prominent games for under 13, 15, 17,
The
up
women's as well.
women's game, women's
Wow.
league. So, uh, bro, this is going to be a full production house. I'm just taking my time because it's the pandemic. But you know, when uh, when the pandemic is over, the grind is back.
Wow. But that's an aspect of football that really needs a boost. You know what I mean? Like we need to know the under 13s, the under 15s that are coming up so that we're already excited by the time they get their debut when they're 18 or 19, We don't really get that. We don't really get an opportunity to get hyped for a prospect,
Yeah,
because there's simply not enough information out there. We don't know who these guys are who are
yeah,
coming in, right? So definitely something to look out for. And performance levels change when you're on TV.
yeah,
Performance levels change when your mom's gonna watch you, or your neighbors are gonna see this. It really makes a stark contrast to how you would normally suit up if you think, wala naman nanonood eh. I can do
mm,
whatever I want. You know what I mean? So I would say, for example, during the home and away times of PFL, that really you could see the people who lived in the areas where they were playing. There was an extra notch that they would
yeah.
they would raise their level to. So definitely broadcasting matches, man. That's gonna change the game
The,
for sure.
yeah, I think that we still have a few equipment we have to secure to really complete the, you know, the one that we have, the build that we really want. For now, we can always rely on direct Glenn to give us equipment, but sooner or later we're gonna have all that stuff in the federation that you know, that will allow us to cover everything, every almost every activity. I think now with social media, YouTube, and Facebook, it really allows us to produce our own content without really, not needing to, to plead to a network to, hey, can you carry our product,
Yeah.
and maybe at some point, you know we can monetize that aspect where the production becomes self-sustaining. That is really the goal of the federation, that eventually this production house becomes self-sustaining, uh, so that it also saves money for other projects of the PFF. So that's really the goal.
Puts the football in a very strong position in terms of negotiating with networks. If if we can produce it ourselves, right? You produce it, so it takes a whole load off the networks in terms
Yeah.
of like, oh, dadalhin ba namin yung AB, yung OB van dyan, and this and that. That's going to entail so much cost and blah blah blah, right? So, you know this better than I do. So,
They don't know the key to the coverage in the PFL. The key to that was really the internet in Carmona,
exactly.
right? That was the first thing I did, Jing.
Yeah.
Actually, that was the first thing I did. The first thing, as soon as I get my appointment papers, I immediately buckled down to work to get 100 Mbps internet in Carmona, and that's the reason why we had this really good connection. Thanks to Smart, it was great. It was great that they really helped out, and without really expecting anything in return. So thanks to the connections of Sir Nonong and Attorney Ed, they were able to get. But we had to follow it up. We had to follow it up so that we had so that small detail can change a lot of things, right? Remember
That's huge. That's
before,
massive.
you you would watch the PFL and sometimes it gets cut off because the internet is down, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so and sometimes it gets pixelated. So now at least you get the full HD experience on TV.
So tell me, when the dream scenario happens, 10, 15,000 packed in Brazil Memorial Stadium to watch a cup final. There's what, 12 cameras, as you said, there's a drone, there's everything, the works. Where are you while all of this is happening? Are you behind a microphone? Are you in a director's box? Are you a pundit? What are you? I mean, there's many things that you could
I
position
might
yourself in there.
I might be beside the director.
Decide the director.
I might be beside the director, just producing, and maybe shed a tear or two while while all of it is happening. You know me, Jing. I can be very emotional.
A little
I
bit.
I can be a little bit emotional. That's where the passion comes from.
Definitely, man. But of all the things that you've been able to cover, and one of the things, by the way, that I really enjoy when I speak to you is that you remember the small details always, right? Like 2008 coverage, man. There's this 2008 coverage. You won't believe this. It's like this, the minutest thing. It's like this was with the standings at the time, and we hadn't played yet, and blah 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 was injured. He wasn't feeling well. It's like, how do you still remember all of that? Anyway, my question being, of all the things that you have had an opportunity to cover, like, I wouldn't say, maybe it's difficult to say, well, which one was your favorite, top one, but maybe top three moments of your uh, coverage in sports. What would they be?
Well, number one has to be, I won't rank it in order, probably because they all give me equal feelings. Probably first the Miracle in Hanoi, just because of the surprise that I got. It was the surprise of my life, really.
Hmm.
Most surprising coverage of my life. The next one was, you remember, I don't know if you remember the crying incident in Rizal Memorial, where I took over the mic when Phil Young husband scored.
Well, I was sitting
And
right next to you, so
yeah, I still it's not, they say it's a, I always remember when I think of that moment, I think about you, Jing, because I was I was not supposed to steal your thunder there, but I just you saw me. I was a wreck in that game. I
Yeah.
was a wreck. I was a wreck. You remember when Tajikistan scored and I did not speak a single word for like 5 minutes and I could not believe myself. Like, oh my god, it is happening again. I, and then Kevin Ingreso equalizes and then I'm back, right? Oh,
Yeah.
all right, he's back. We have a third commentator now, right? I was allowing Coach Anto like, yeah, he's back. He's engaged again. And then that goal happened. Like it was a before that goal, I was already there, man. There were tears already. Oh my
No,
goodness.
I pride myself in being very, very detached in a match, right? Like trying to be as level as I can possibly be. So when that moment happened, I was. It didn't even dawn on me that this is it. We're through. Like I wanted to just call the game, and then obviously you had shouted, right? And I had looked at you, and I was thinking like, I wanna be able to tell this the way it's supposed to be, while also allowing this moment to happen because you cannot control that, right? It's there already. It's happening. So I was thinking like, I remember the afterwards when I was walking to my car was the only time where I felt emotional. Walking to the car from to the parking lot, where I felt like, wow, this is really we're going to the Asian Cup. How ridiculous is this, right? So I was tearing up on the way to the car, and when I sat in my car, I was thinking like, wow, people are gonna think I shouted. People are really gonna think it's me because you can't tell the difference. There's no space, right?
Yeah,
And then
there's no.
I had friends telling me, bro, you kind of lost your shit a little bit. And I was like, no, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. But that's what it was. That was that moment. It is what it is.
Yeah,
I don't look back at it as as you stealing my thunder or anything like that. I was thinking like, this is the way it's gonna be remembered. That that's how much it meant to the people in the booth, man. Like it
yeah,
was an incredible game. And to be there in that seat to watch it happen and try to tell that story was such a fun experience for me. And I'm guessing for you as it makes it into your top two.
yeah. Well, I mean, I could not that those emotions. I just felt it just boiled over, and that's why I'm telling you. I've seen this team. I've seen the Azkals cry. I've seen them in the lowest of lows. Oh my goodness, I've seen a lot of failures with the team, the disappointment, the frustration. So being there, I had to feel that because I I I I would hold back when I see them. Like, oh my god, you're so corny. You're just a journalist covering the team, and you end up crying with them. No, but it always felt that way because you always are part of the. You always felt like you're part of it because
Mm.
you've been there with them for so long. You like I'm counting. Sometimes I end up counting my caps. I have my own I have my own cap. So as we're recording this, actually, it was the 2 years ago. The Azkals were in the Asian Cup playing
Yep.
Korea. So that was my 103rd cap. So I remember
Wow.
that. I remember that clearly. So yeah, only senior caps. I won't counting senior caps, right? So
Incredible.
yeah, and you have to add a few more because of the last few years, right? So um and the next probably the most uh the only problem there, Jing, with that coverage as well is that I had to cry right there and then because I had to write the story after minutes later. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
I said, all right, blah, blah, okay, we're going to Nation Cup. Yeah, this means a lot for us, blah, blah, blah. And then I leave the booth. I leave you and Coach Anto. Guys, I still have to write my story. I go rush to the press room and I have to write the story. So, so can you imagine? Like, okay, you have to settle yourself, right?
Yeah.
You still have to write this long ass article that's coming out in the paper tomorrow, right? So,
That's incredible, man. Yeah, I always thought like that's insane that you're gonna do that. You know what I mean? But then again, it's similar to stuff that was asked of us a lot of
Yeah.
back in the day. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
juggling these things. It's
Yeah. And my, of course, my probably one of the most memorable next, so you give me top three.
yeah.
I'll have the last one was the 2018 Suzuki Cup
Mm,
in against Singapore. So it was in Panaan. It was in Panaan
okay.
Stadium.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the first game of the Azkals in the Suzuki Cup. It was home and away, right? The 2018 Suzuki Cup. They started with this home and away. So I get assigned by TV5 to cover this game. So I was also doing my inquiry stuff. I was also doing social media for the Suzuki Cup, for Lagardère Suzuki Cup website, and I was in Bacolod, right, with family, with friends, and then I I this road to Panaan. I was driving going to the stadium, and it was my birthday actually, Jing. It was my
Mm.
birthday. I was I turned 35 that day. I was driving, and then, bro, I couldn't help it. I was crying. I'm like, wow, I'm back in here, doing this, and this is where I started everything, my dreams, my, all that I have now. I started here. So, and it's my birthday. It's like, what a way to celebrate my birthday. And then I'm gonna enter the stadium. I'm gonna be preparing for my coverage. But I was so overwhelmed with emotions by that moment that I finally get to do what I love here. It's an international audience. The
Mm.
significance of the game. It's like, and I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, I can't believe I'm so fortunate. I'm so blessed to be in this moment. And I was crying. And I had to wipe it off, like I was before going to the stadium, before making that walk to Panad, from the parking lot, from the parking area, because it the Azkals ended up winning that game, but I just felt like, what's a boy from Bacolod doing here? What is, how did I get to it all came back, like all the all the frustration, all the failure, all the disappointment before, and all the steps that I took to be in that position in my career. So I think that was one of the highlights for me. I had to, so many struggles along the way, and I'm there.
And a
You remember the
culmination.
time when you had to pay in the jeepney. You're down to your last 1-2 peso, and then you realize, I'll just walk home. I don't have enough money, and then you're there. You're in the stadium. Lights are on, and you're on cam, and then you're calling the most important games that day, right? So uh, amazing, man. And then it's not even the Asian Cup. Asian
Sure.
Cup was okay. Um, watching Korea Azkals play, yeah, was okay, especially with the quality of football that you're watching. But in terms of being memorable, making it memorable, it was very memorable for me. And then my father was there. My some of my family was there as well, watching that game, and then seeing me there calling that game. So it meant so much to me.
Man, that's got to be amazing. And also being that it combined all of the expertise that you picked up along the way, right? You're
Yeah,
on
yeah.
cam, you're writing, you're, all of your connections as well around the people that you've been working with over the last decade. That would have been a fantastic experience, and who would have thought, right? I mean, we started calling your first broadcast, you and I were together, right?
Yeah,
You were calling
yeah.
Premier League games off tube for a delayed broadcast on TV5. Um, what a time! What a time to get started, right?
I I didn't, Jing, I didn't realize the back then, I took a lot of that for granted. I thought I was giving myself a free pass because I was still new, I'm still adjusting, but I felt that I should have done better in that. But I think it's part of mature of being, part of growing up, being mature. Because
Yeah.
when it was all gone, I said, oh my god, I think I should have done better with it. But it wasn't. We didn't get fired actually. We just lost the network just lost the property. So we didn't get
Yeah.
fired. So I still take pride in not getting fired out of anything. So I'm okay with that.
Man, one of my most memorable times, unfortunately, wasn't a positive one with you. Was I we were paired to do one of those ridiculous early morning ones.
Oh
I
my
remember
god.
sleeping on
I
the couch. I had made like specific moves so that I would be there on time, and you'd gone out the night before, and you
Oh,
had me
yeah,
there.
I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. I was so. Oh my god.
I remember thinking, and then I dropped you off, and then you rode in the car, and I was thinking like, you know, there's such a part of me that wants to leave Cedelf here right now in Tandang Sora. Ang layo pa nun, Tandang Sora. I was like, but wala. I was like, whatever, whatever. It happens. It happens. Just remember thinking like, am I too nice? Am I too nice? I remember thinking that to myself, like,
I
masyado
was
ako
like,
mabait. Para hindi ako nagalit, hindi ako parang let's just get on with it. But
bro.
I remember thinking like, go ahead, go ahead.
I was so embarrassed, man. I was like, oh my god. I'm like, "Dude, that is not you. That is not you." But I said that's what I said. That's why I'm telling you that I took a lot of things for granted that time.
Yeah,
That coverage, and I thought that because I was just starting out in the industry, I was like, yeah, maybe they can, give you a free pass. Actually, I had to send a lot of people text messages, the bosses, that I fucked up that time. so, so so yeah, I was so man, that was so irresponsible. That was so irresponsible.
yeah. That was a period in your life where you were going out a little bit more at that
Yeah,
time.
but now I'm not.
Family man, times have changed.
Times have changed, man.
No, but it was a great experience. I mean, being able to call those matches and obviously watching the growth, right? I mean,
Yeah,
the evolution of how much better we got in broadcasting, from being deers in the headlights when the cameras go on to being like taking selfies 5 seconds before we go on air. Like we're so used to it, like man, that really was quite a journey that
yeah,
that we took as broadcasters.
yeah. 6 years actually, Jing, with UFL, and we called a lot of big games. You
Yeah,
know that we called
yeah,
a lot of very important games. And I remember some of my first few broadcasts. Because in the UFL, it's just you and some of your friends are there. Some of your friends are players,
yeah, yeah.
and when the lights are on, the camera is on, and one of your friends pass by behind the camera, and you follow the eyes. Your eyes follow. You want to say hi, right? And then I got called out one time. No, you have to look at the camera. It's not like you can't say hi to everyone.
It is weird looking at a camera, right? That always put me off for the longest time. But
Yeah, but
man,
man, I'm like, I didn't realize it, Jing, because sometimes you're always there when we work. There's stuff we have to do with either with football or some other stuff, or when we were working in the UFL, and then at some point you became media officer of Meralco, and then
mhm.
also here now with Kaya. um and we're still here, man. We're
Yes,
still here. We're still here.
much to
We're
like
not
the
giving up. We're not giving up on football. We're not giving up on Philippine football.
not at this point, right? I mean, if we've gone this
No
far, we're
way.
not pulling
No
out at this
way.
time, right? I mean,
We're in
a
too
lot of
deep. We're in too deep.
so many people questioning like, are you sure you want to stay here? Like, are you sure you want to remain in an industry that seems like it's going downhill? And it's like, yeah, if you don't stick it out, then you're not going to be able to reap the rewards when it is on the way out, right? So,
Yeah,
and we're positioned ourselves now in a situation where it feels as if we're on the rise again. And
yeah,
this time, though, it's a little bit different because you have a say in the rise now. You know, Coco has a say in the rise of
yeah,
football now. So it feels like it's we're part of it now. It's
yeah,
not like you're just covering it from the outside and writing what you see. It's more of we're making it happen, which
yeah,
is which is quite a step up and quite a a beautiful thing to see, especially as we were all together. You know,
yeah.
it's fantastic.
The, there's a level of control with what will happen. I
Mm,
think that is the best. That is the best thing about this new job for me. I have some control, and I am accountable to what is going to happen. So, um, accountability is very important to me. That's why, if 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 you notice, when the initial feedback about the broadcast was there, some of them were not happy. I, bro, it 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 kills me. You know it.
mm,
I was not trying to make excuses for the team, but you want to do better. You want to do better, but there are limitations. There are limitations. So that's why. But there is a level of control that the team, me, Coco, can manage. So that is a good thing for me. So that's why when you have when people have this harsh criticism of the broadcast, bro, I feel so tempted sometimes to answer them, man. In the private message in the PFL Facebook page.
I should take a leaf out of
I
Coco's
have
book,
access to.
bro. Be more like Coco. He's out there busy in the comments, right? He's over there slamming trolls, getting busy like early in the morning. That's like his morning routine, I think. Over breakfast, he's replying to these comments.
Yeah, so sometimes you just have to let it go, and then sometimes you say that you cannot please everyone. But I'm so glad that I put a really good team together. With I knew the value of commentators, of how a commentator can give it the best coverage or give it the worst coverage, right? So because I've been there. So um I was so happy that all of the people that I asked to do commentary actually agreed. You, Nate, even Nate,
Yeah,
so happy Nate is on board. He's coming up with his own style of commentating. Paolo, of course, Natasha, Darren, of course, and Jamer, who's been improving with his craft. So I'm so glad, man. It makes a whole lot of difference, and you know that. It all of a sudden, people are tuning in. We have I saw some YouTube stats, and I'm so happy with the viewing numbers, with the not just the viewing numbers, but the minutes that they stayed on for the broadcast.
right, right,
It's very
right.
important, right? It's not just the views, right? It's more of how many minutes did they stay on.
Mm,
So in some games they stayed on for 15 minutes. That's a lot of time already if
yeah,
you're watching football, and that's just the average. If you're averaging 15 minutes of watch time on for a game, for a football match, that's already one sixth of a football match, and you still have other stuff to do, right?
sure.
You're mixing this football watching to the other stuff that you do during the day. So you can't expect a mobile user to hold his phone for 2 hours and watch the game. We cannot do that. But the behavior that we're seeing, it's changing. So um when you see the numbers, it's inspiring, man. Like 500,000 views on Facebook combined, and then 100,000 on YouTube with 15 minutes average viewing average. So that's gotta be enough fuel for you to improve for the following season.
and it's just a taste for what's to come. So that's the exciting part as well, man. Uh, on top of the games as well, I just wanted to note that it's tremendous seeing everything around it as well. You're creating the profiles, you're creating little features on the teams. The interview sections that are inside the bubble programs. Like it's not just the matches; it's the ecosystem that you're creating, the media ecosystem that will allow people to make football a part of their lives, to make it a regular thing. That I'm getting to know this guy today. Tomorrow I'm watching a game. The next day after that, it's going to be a feature on this and that. It's like it's exciting. It's something new all the time, and that's what the industry needs. That's what the community needs, right? It's not place all the responsibility on the clubs to make their content. And kayo na bahala, we'll retweet you or we repost you. It's like, no, that's not good enough. So it's great to see that the league and the federation as a whole is getting a bit of a revamp. So congratulations on a great year, man. I love the work. It was tremendous. Congratulations on it. And I'm not saying that just because you got me as a commentator. I
Yeah.
mean everything as a whole. Um,
It sort of validates my decision to retire.
no, I mean, if the result of you retiring from Inquire is that we get reap the benefits of vastly improved broadcast, I would say, selfishly as a football guy, fantastic decision, my friend. But yeah, man, we've been here for more than an hour. It's been so much fun to be able to
Yeah.
speak with you, man. And my first time interviewing you in a decade of knowing you. So this has been a real treat for me.
We had those conversations in your car, Jing.
I
Before.
know. I
But
love those car
at
rides.
one time you wanted to drop me off in somewhere near probably Katipunan, I didn't take a
No,
cab.
the stories were worth it. The stories were worth it, my friend.
Yeah.
But it's great to see your success over the years, to follow everything, to see you grow as a person and not just as a football writer and commentator, but everything, man. It's
Yeah.
been fantastic to see
Yeah.
to see the work. I hope people can tune into your podcast. It's crossover.
Yeah.
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 Throw the listeners some details, man. Where they can find you, what they can look at in order to make sure they're on top of everything.
Honestly, Jing, I'm an off season in crossover. I'm a bit of I'm in a bit of a break. I'm trying to I do the crossover with Paolo, of course. It's on our Facebook page. I'm so glad that across the line is in good hands. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy for you guys. I still listen. I still tune into the show. You know that
Appreciate that.
I'm always I still keep I kept in touch with Toby during the pandemic. I still I'd still come up with it's still one of the my if that is not proof, I'll show you some proof that it is still it is still in my right.
Recently played. All right, all right.
Right, you're right there with the old man and the three with JJ Redick. So yeah, I'm so glad that you've you've continued this with Chris. The a lot of some of the listeners actually asked me, before that, where I just disappeared from the podcast. But that time was a really tough time. 2019.
Mm.
When I left the show, I was in. I had to handle the Southeast Asian Games. I had to be assigned somewhere, and I was traveling a lot. I was doing MPBL games, so it was taking a toll on me and my schedule as well. So I had to be fair with Chris. He can't expect me there all the time. So, but congratulations to the both of you for pursuing this. And I've listened to some very good, very interesting interviews. Last week Coco was fantastic. Huh? At the very least, you got him for that interview.
It took some time
Our
and some work.
friend.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy getting him in.
He's just in Bacolod, man. He's just playing golf in Bacolod, so he can drop by once in a while. But yeah, it's I'm so glad I'm so happy for you, Jing, as well. I'm still happy that I still see you where where we work. when we work, especially during the bubble, and it's always nice to talk to you and throw some ideas off of you, and always appreciate the feedback that you give. It comes from a good place always. Thank you, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for stopping by. If you guys enjoyed this episode with the Cedelf Tupas himself, please do subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Rate and review us. And find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. Thank you for joining us on this Football Friday, and we'll catch you on the